By One Nation leader Pauline Hanson. Pauline, great to see you. Now, I wanted to ask you your response to the furore around your comments, which I've talked about and given my opinion of. But tell me, how have you responded to the furore this week about your questions about good Muslims versus bad Muslims?
I think the whole lot... Look, I admit the way I framed it and the way it came across. But I question, how do you know? Rowan, I think that we need to have this discussion where the country is headed, what do we expect for the future for our future generations. And I keep going back to other countries like England and France. Go and ask the people of Egypt or the Christian Lebanese or even Iran, how has it worked out for them? Not very well. You've got protests now in the streets, especially by women who are forced to wear the hijab or the burqa to cover up. And these women are being flogged, jailed, or even losing their life because they dare protest against Islam. Yes, you do have radical Islams. You have those people that are in the country. And it's been proven that we have these people, but I don't believe the vetting process, we don't do enough of it. Eventually in time, my concern is we're losing our culture, heritage, and in certain areas, once they get into councils, they'll push their own beliefs. Sharia law is being practiced in this country, have no doubt about it.
The fact that you're prepared to raise these questions is the critical thing. And I would like to know what the response from the public has been to you, because I certainly believe we should be having these discussions. And, OK, you can say this word or this phrase or that phrase or whatever and get upset about it. But this is a country where we're supposed to have free speech. You should be able to ask questions, particularly questions surrounding the demographics, immigration and critical things. You have Angus Taylor saying we want to shut the door, but we haven't had any specifics. All you were saying was, well, we want to make sure we shut the door to certain people with certain views. What has been the reaction from the public? Yeah. Because I've seen you in public and I know you get the opinions. They come up to you and they tell you exactly what they think. What's been the reaction this week?
Overwhelming support from the public who back me all the way. You know, for Angus Taylor, motherhood statements and we're going to actually Australian values and all the rest of it. Well, tell us what they are, Angus. What are your Australian values? And I'm sick of these politicians trying to appease all these groups. The same as Labor is trying to appease them because three main seats, Clare, Burke and also Bowen, are heavily dominated by Muslims. Of course they're going to do everything to appease them. And that's not the way this country should be running. And I just fear for the future generations if we keep heading down this path. And I keep saying it, go back to, have a look at England. I had a fellow pull me up in the shopping the other day and he said, I'm from England. Go for it, Pauline. He said, do not let Australia become like England. And that's what people are fearful of, what's happening. So, you know, Rowan, I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I haven't got a university degree. But what my parents gave me was common sense. And that's few and far between with these elitists, with these politicians that we have now. The general public out there, they're not stupid. And these are things, yeah, I keep coming out and I raise these issues, I get criticised, I get put down by the left, by those agitators, the people who don't like what I'm saying. But unless we have debate on a lot of these topics and issues, are we going to bury our head in the sand till it gets to a stage we can't turn it around? I'm not going to give up what I believe in. It will be up to the people at the next election, do they want Pauline Hanson or not? It will be their choice.
And well, that's a great point, because we've just had Peter Malinauskas, so you've got the South Australian election coming up. You've got Corey Bernardi as your star candidate there. That's all happening. Listen to this, possibly the oddest and weirdest comment I've heard from an Australian Premier, and that's saying something in some time. Have a listen, Pauline, to these comments from Peter Malinauskas about One Nation.
My message to One Nation voters is, who's going to feed you and bathe you and wipe your bum when you're 90, right? Because it ain't going to be your kids. Because if I get my way, they're going to be working on submarines, huh? With high-paying jobs so they can afford to own their home that has to be built by someone. And who's going to do that work?
Wiping your bum? What on earth is this character on about?
What an absolute stupid comment to make with regards, to One Nation, or, if he thinks that's an election issue. What a stupid comment. He needs to look at the ramping, hospital ramping, the educational system, what's happening in South Australia, and the crime. This is what people are concerned about, the cost of living, whether they can actually buy a house. Rental accommodation in South Australia is extremely high. You can't get rental accommodation, so it's been extremely high. These stupid politicians, what they go out and say, and they're in fear of One Nation because right across the whole country, even this week, we've increased again in our polling, Rowan. And this is what they did to me the first time around, is they went after me when we won 11 seats in Queensland state election 1998.
I also think, in my opinion, Peter Malinauskas' comments that somehow it's only immigrants who do lower jobs is deeply racist of its own sort, if you like. But anyway, thanks so much, Pauline Hanson, for chatting to us here on The World According to Rowan Dean. Now it's time for